So it's 1880 China. I've been through the first operating round for the company, so you can start to see some track tiles being laid out on the map, up there, through here, and up here, and up to the top of the map there. And so we've done one complete operating round and then a second operating round where the private companies and the foreign investors have acted. So we're on to the share companies, starting with the BCR. And the BCR has a decision to make straight away here, because Train Mad Tina has the opportunity to connect up the BCR through Kunming here, straight down to French Indochina, and have that connection, early connection, with her foreign investors, using the last available one of this shape of city tile. So that's the last one of these for the moment, and she could drop that in there and connect up. The benefits of that is that she would get the cash out of here, so she would be getting 50-70 money into her company, or she could have 10%, she could have 14 cash, but she'd probably take the 70 money into here. She'd get that share, so that as the BCR itself ran, she'd have a 30% stake and get slightly more of the payouts, and she would get a 50 yen bonus, or yuan. I've keep getting the currency wrong. I've called it bucks, I've called it yen. I think it's yuan, but apologies if I switch between various random currencies. I'll end up calling it pounds by the end, just so I remember what to call it. So she could take that 50 bonus plus the share and get a bit more of a payout. So what's she losing? She's not really losing much in terms of track lay now, because the French Indochina people, the foreign investors' only track lay, only legal track lay now is to put something in here. And if it doesn't connect up, well, she's stopping herself from connecting up, and that's made the decision for her. So, she's got to make a decision one way or the other, but she's pretty much, if she doesn't connect up, then she's still not getting much in the way of track lay benefit from the from these people, although potentially, because she could run straight across there and continue developing this and come back round into here and maybe get a route back round through there and develop into this, maybe. So there may be a little bit more work that the investors could do in terms of track development, but she's also losing the nominal 2 train that they have. So she has kicked us off by buying two trains for the BCR, because she figured she'd have 2 routes early, because she figured she'd have one this way and one this way. And she'd be losing the train that they're running, so she'd be losing this 50 income that the foreign investors are picking up. And even though connecting up would allow her to drop a station in here, she could then only, whatever she did, she'd always be that 2 train behind, because even if she bought a 2 train, well, she'd then have 3 2 trains, but she would have had 4 if she'd used bought the 2 train and used it elsewhere. So she is losing the use of a nominal 2 train, and potentially a nominal 2+2 train and nominal 3 train, if she connects up this early. Now, there's not much risk of losing the connection, because she can put a city straight on through there, and then a straight one of these, of which there are plenty, through here, and connect straight up through there, and upgrade this to make that connection if she needs it. But that loss of the earning power of the 2 train is slightly annoying. Of course, that money is going into sort of escrow. It's going into a sort of side fund that she doesn't have access to for developing her railway empire and buying shares and investing in new stuff. So It's an interesting question, and it's also one that's only answered if you think about when a share round might happen. And in this game, share rounds happen at one of 2 points. If a set of trains sells out, then you get a share round exactly at that moment. As the corporation buys the last of the type of train, you get a share round. And then that corporation goes back into its train buying options and still has the option to buy the next type of train. If you get through a complete round and no one has bought a train, all the available trains of the current type disappear and you get a share round, and then you go back into this with the corporation having an option to buy this one. And you use this train marker to signify who bought the last train. So we've just had the first operating round, everyone bought at least one train. If no one now buys a train, in other words, we move all these markers over and we get down to orange here and he doesn't buy a train either, then all these twos will go and we'll get a share round, and then we'll come back in with the orange corporation having the option to buy the first 2 plus 2 and move the game phase on. So there's a question about timing here, and the question is, how speedily does Train Martina need the money out of her foreign investor to have it available for that next share round where she might viably be able to use it? And we ought to have a look at the option, the number of 2 trains left to answer that question. And we have got 1, 2, 3, 4. So if she doesn't buy a 2 train, then, and every other corporation does buy a 2 train, then we're going to end another 2 train. Then we're going to end up with a share round. But if those trains don't go, then she will get another opportunity to operate both her private investor and the BCR. Probably. Well, if no one buys a train, we'll also go into a share round. So if everyone buys a train, we get a share round. If no one buys a train, she get a share round. Anything else, and she gets more activity with her private investor and her corporation before we get that share round. And that's what she's going to gamble on. She's going to keep her private investors 2 train running for another set of operating rounds. So she's not going to connect up, and she's going to try and get another round's worth of cash into her private investor before hooking them up and siphoning the money out. So that's what she's up to. And so her track lays are going to reflect that, and she's going to build across here and take the build in Chongqing here, and then make her runs on that basis. So the operations round has got down to the orange JHA, the Jinghua Railway, out of northern Beijing here, being run by Balanced Brian, and no one's bought a train. And what's interesting is the usual, one of the sort of truisms, and there are exceptions, but one of the truisms you read over and over again in 18xx games is this kind of if in doubt buy a train kind of thing, that, you know, buying a train and moving the game forward and being aggressive is generally accepted as, you know, reasonably good play. Obviously it's situational, but it's a sort of maxim to keep buying trains if you're not sure what to do. But in this game you can move the game forward by not buying trains. If everyone is not buying trains, the game also moves forward, and so that kind of if in doubt buy a train may just be giving people more operating rounds, as our player over here, Train Martina, was hoping. She's hoping that someone would buy a train, give us another operating round for her foreign investor to run again. But if we look at the JHA, Well, actually, if we look down this list of railroads, there's no reason for many of them to have bought trains. So this pink HKR, NKR, the Ningxi Railway didn't need a train. This company didn't need a train, and the Hukan Railway out of Shanghai could have made a case for buying a train if their next track lay had been up here in Qingdao, and they'd intended to run a 2 up that line there and another 2 down that line there. But Reckless Rob here has got the Taiwan. He wants the 2+2 to make this run down into Taiwan. He doesn't want to be pissing around with 2 trains. He wants to get us to the 2+2s so that he can, with 1 train, make this bonus run, which is going to be worth 30, 50, 70, 100, 120 to him. So he wants the 2+2s out, and he wants them out now. So he didn't want a train because he didn't want to be pushing us through more operating rounds of the 2 train. So he held off, hoping that everyone else would hold off. And so we come to the JHA, and now the JHA has got, if he's aware of these players' situations, he'd be aware that if he buys a train, he's doing Train Mantina a favour by giving her foreign investors, her French investors, another operating round, another chance to run their train before they join up and dump it into the company, and then the share round that follows. If he holds off on buying a train, he's stitching her up, but he's doing the HKR a favour by moving us into the 2+2s, which is exactly what he wants. So he's got 2 options here, one of which favours one player, one of which favours another, and he really wants to make a decision on what's best for him. And I mean, if he had an option that was best for him and stitch someone else up, he'd go for that. But given that this is balanced Brian, he figures that he'll take the option that's best for him and let other people take their chances. And he also wants a 2+2 train because he's got a run which goes this city, this town, this city, this town. So he's got an 80 run through here with a 2+2, and because he's at a dead end in Beijing, unless he puts down station markers very close, he doesn't have much interest in sticking around with these 2 trains. He'd much rather have a longer run and have his Russians having a longer run with a 2+2 train and at least getting out here before he has a reassess. So he's going to hold off buying a train and just play his turn, and so we're then going to go into a stock round as he ends his turn. So we're coming into a share round, and the shares, as you can see, are all priced at 100 at the moment in the open market, apart from the JHA in northern Beijing, which are at 90, and the first player marker, the red train just there, is with Cautious Kate, who has 208 yuan to spend. Payout Paul currently has 75, 80, 85, 87, so not enough for anything. Reckless Rob 50, 70. Balanced Brian 457, and over here Train Martina has got 115, 116. So the only 2 players that can actually afford shares are Tina and down here Kate. So Kate wants to get some more of her money invested in things that might produce her money now that things are running and potentially making cash. She thinks that this green Hukan railway here, everyone can see that, you know, it's a tile lay away from hooking up to Taiwan, and then it's got a 30, 50, this will be a 20, 70, 100 run with the plus 20 bonus from this. That'll be 120 run, and that will probably be the best that we're going to see. You know, the BCR is currently at 90, that's at 50, and the rest, everything else is just making a nominal 40 at the moment with, you know, very early stages of the game. the BCR could have the potential to make quite a lot of money if it joins up and then tokens out French Indochina and starts running trains out of here into here and out this way and out of its main base. So that is an option as well. She could buy 100 share of the BCR. Or she could buy one of each because she's got 200 in cash. So she's this sort of setup. You know, the BCR is currently running at 9 a share, running here. I think no 8 a share. Out of here and here 20, 40, 60, 80. I think, and I might have, oh no, yeah, 8 a share, that's what it is on the chart. That making more money does kind of rely on this getting tokened by the BCR, and so it might end up with more income per run later, but that tokening can't happen until well, it could happen in the foreign investors phase, because the foreign investor could hook this up as their run, and then as part of their thing token this out. Because I think that all the transfers of everything happen at the end of the foreign investor phase, so I don't think it's immediate. I think if this got hooked up, then the foreign investor would get to run their train, and then all the accrual would happen at the end of their private investor phase. Yeah, I think that's quite likely to happen, to be honest. But the other thing to consider here is how close things are to selling out. The HKR has already sold 40% of its shares. So if we buy the HKR share, we then go up to 50%, and that means that the price of the HKR will go up on the stock market for being sold out, which would give us an instant 5 boost on. We pay 100 and it would instantly be worth 105. And of course, if we don't buy it, then Train Mad Tina is going to get the option on it, and then we're not going to have the option. So we are going to buy that for 100, and then Train Mad Tina is going to back her own company. I think she'll go up to a 30% stake in the BCR, unless she thinks that something else looks like it's going to take off in the next set of operating rounds with a 2+2 train. But are they going to take off more than her? And she doesn't think they are. The possibility is that the JHA gets things rolling out of Russia and out of Beijing with a 2+2, and picks up 60 here, and then that picks up and then hooks them up, and that starts looking quite profitable. But and the JHA is only 90 at the moment, and 40% of it is sold. 40% of it is sold, so buying that then guarantees that goes up on the share chart because it's sold out, and also denies that opportunity to Cautious Kate down the other end, who then doesn't really have great options. Maybe. Yeah, that's what she's thinking. She's going to buy a share of the Jingha at 90. So we'll grab the last of the Jingha there for 90. I'll deal with you know, the banking in a second. And not enough cash, not enough cash, not enough cash. You've just had to pay 100, so you've got 118 left. The the Jingha has sold out, and the Hukan has sold out. There's still 10% of this Nanjiang going, but it's only earning 4 per share, and its potential doesn't look that great. Its next track lay isn't going to increase that. Its next track lay after that isn't going to increase it much. So what's it doing to outstrip the earnings of the HKR or the BCR? Nothing. And we're now feeling, as Cautious Kate, like we ought to take a share in the BCR, which then doesn't inflate its share price. But that's, yeah, I think we're comfortable with not inflating the share price of the BCR. So we will pay 100 for a share of the BCR. There's our other 100, and there's our other share of the BCR, and there's still one left, and we've got a fairly balanced sort of portfolio here now, with 20% of the Ningxi, 10% and 10%. Okay, cool, and that is the share round done. Cautious Kate was the last one to buy a share. The red train comes over here, and I have to remember to get 90 cash out of here, and there's 115, which we will exchange for a 25 like that. Take that away, and we're off into a new operating round, so or set of operating rounds. So we will reset all these, and we are back with 2+2 trains available. So the private investors are now running 2+2 trains, and sorry, the foreign investors are now running 2+2 trains, and we will keep running the privates because we are a long way from those closing down. So here we are coming into operating round 3, and this is after a reset, unfortunately. I got all the way through this operating round, sold all the 2+2 trains to various share companies, and then did a stock round before I realised that I had failed. As we came into the new operating round, I'd failed to give the JHA its right to buy the first 2+2, and then all the 2+2 sold, and it didn't have one, and it was in a really poor position when it should have been in a strong position with the first refusal to buy that train. So I had to do some resetting. Very luckily I had some footage of exactly the position we should have been in terms of cash and share values and so on, share ownership and share values. So I was able to reset the game state to exactly where it should be. So we've now got through the private and foreign investor steps of this third operating round, and the Baocheng Railway has just merged with the French Indochina investors, has picked up their additional share, has tokened their station, and is all set with to go in this first set of the operating round, and is going to buy up a couple of 2+2 trains, I think, which is what they did last time, and they have no reason to change now because they've got, you know, potential to build track now out here, potential to build track round here, yeah, lots of opportunities. So I think one thing I haven't done is taken off these 2 track lays. I'm going to have to check that those 2 track lays should have been there, because I've got a feeling they shouldn't. This is the third operating round. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so they shouldn't have had that opportunity. So they've had 1, 2, 3 operating rounds, and they've had 1, 2 operating rounds. So this will be their third operating round. So they've got track lay to come first, and then running and so on. So yeah, I'm just having to restart slightly and make sure that I'm exactly where I should be. And the BCR, basically the BCR wants to set itself up to make loads and loads of cash as quickly as possible by having 4 possible runs and 4 trains to do it with. So that's what Train Martina is aiming for. Set herself up in a position where she can make 4 runs and then go for it, go from there. So yeah, let's get on with it. Well, so having been a bit thrown by messing up the third operating round and having to rewind that and a share round, I think we're now back on track, no pun intended. So I've gone through this third operating round again. We've done the track layouts, we've done the payouts, and we also then did a share round because all the 2+2s sold out exactly like they did last time, but with a slightly different distribution. And then we got, because of that, we got a share round at which through 4 of the 5 companies also sold out. And then we had, there weren't many people who had money to buy shares, so then we went back into the operating round and the first 3 trains sold. And what the sale of the first 3 train did was move us into phase B, and at that point anything that had sold out 50% of its shares, i.e. was sold out for the initial stages of the game, had that card removed so that the 100% of its shares were available, and it also fully capitalised. So a lot of these companies got another 500 yuan, or in this case 450, but still a lot of companies ended up with 500 yuan added to their treasuries as they fully capitalised. The only one that didn't is this Ningxi Railway here, which is really struggling to get anything going in this location south of Beijing. But everyone else has just had a whole heap more capital injected into their company and is now looking at the price of these trains going, oh, you know, 300 for a 4 train or whatever doesn't look too much. But so you can see how with all that capital arriving into the game, to 1,950 yuan worth of capital, how we're going to carry on rocketing through the trains fairly regularly. What might slow people down is the fact that they'll run out of space to buy trains, because this guy, you know, Train Martina is full, and the moment a 3+3 is bought, the capacity for trains drops down to 3 as well, which is going to further limit the ability to speed through the trains because people won't have a place to put them. So there's only capacity at the moment for 1, 2, 3. Well, actually, the capacity, the limit's 4 at the moment. So 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got space for 7 trains at the moment. I wonder if we can reach a stage where no one can buy a train because everyone's full. What would happen in that case, of course, is that no one would buy a train for a round, and then all the currently available trains would disappear, and we'd move on to the next train. But still, were that to happen, no one could then buy a train to rust some trains, and it would all get a bit silly. I assume, therefore, that the number of trains in the game is somehow balanced so that can't happen. but let's hope we don't hit a kind of end game where no one can buy a train and nothing can happen. Right, well, I'm going to call it here because I kind of lost the gist of the narrative. We're going to try and pick it back up again because we're about to go into operating round 4 and then share round 3. So and I'm sure things are about to break. All hell is about to break loose here. The BCR is currently leading the earnings per share at 9, the JHA 8, the HKR 5, and the last two, the Ningjiang and the Ningxi Railways, on 4 per share still. Very, very low earnings. But of course, with 4 trains now and potentially 4 routes, depending on what track they choose to lay, and also of course the green tiles now available because the 3 trains been bought, that is going to change things up and allow a lot more links to happen. So one of the things about the yellow tiles is that there aren't really any junctions, only at cities, and they've got two an in and an out, but there aren't really any ways to join track up. What the greens provide is opportunities to turn 1 rail line into 2 rail lines, or turn things into much more accessible junctions. And so we're likely to see a lot more linkage and the potential for linkage, and of course screwage, where people try and defend their line from other people linking up. So yeah, let's stop this here and then go into operating round 4 on a new segment.